I was meant to be up here about 2 minutes ago to start this introduction, but that's okay. I will make it very brief. I'm very happy to introduce my colleague here, Abby Jenkins, from Soil Science Australia. Soil Science Australia are doing some great work. We've been having great conversations with them about interesting future programs of work, which is what we tend to do in the ag industry. We're always looking at ways to do things better. So I'm really pleased that Abby's going to be speaking today. And as I mentioned before, and I've requested from Abby and Ella, I'm going to get all the prezos from everyone in this room for the next 2 days, and we'll put them up on the Landcare Ag website so that you don't have to madly scribble notes if you don't want to. Those prezos will be on our website, and also the linkages to the speakers, so you can contact them. Okay, so Abby works with Soil Science Australia. Soil health is very much their key thing, and it's a real big part of agriculture, is understanding our soils better, making them healthier. So I will, without further ado, hand over to Abby, and she will speak, and then at the end, hopefully, we'll have time for some questions. Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you for coming to listen to me about Smart Soils Resource Library for your soil smarts. I'm, as Angela said, the National Soil Science Extension Team, very long name, coordinator with Soil Science Australia, and so that means I'm involved in a project that I'll tell you a little bit about. And I just wanted to get on the 3 C's bandwagon, so I've written on my hand, this is a collection for curiosity and capacity. So they're my 3 C's. Okay, so just a bit of an overview of what I'm going, or how I'm going to talk about the library today, a bit of an introduction and a why we've done what we've done, then obviously what you're all here for, which is a what is it, and then a little bit of extra information about the other links within the actual Smart Soils project. So for the background, we do have a national soil strategy, which I'm assuming most of you in the room would know about. We've had that since 2021, and under that sits an action plan with various priorities and things like that. The current action plan runs out to 2028, so that's part of our background. And as I said, I work for Soil Science Australia, which is the professional body for practitioners of soil science in Australia. So ostensibly that is a membership body to help with professional development, accreditations, training, that sort of thing. But we also play a big part in lobbying for soils in all sorts of policy, procedure and legislation. There's been quite a lot of talk about that kind of policy element. And so for that reason, we've also had a bit of a role in the National Soil Strategy and the Action Plan. And of course, the other background to the libraries that you would all be aware of in this audience is that we're having a changing landscape in terms of natural resource management and the agricultural sectors and society and policy and all sort of that. That's all led us to develop this tool. So just a brief introduction. The library is part of a larger project called Smart Soils. It has an agriculture focus because it's funded through NHT Climate Smart Agriculture Program. The other components of the project are there. There's a community of practice, of which the regional soil coordinators, which you may have come across, are members. There's the resource library. There's another knowledge network, and all that helps us deliver on that other thing I mentioned, the National Soil Action Plan, Priority 3, which is very firmly about enhancing knowledge capacity. And so the Smart Soils project has definitely got an extension focus. So why have we done this? As most of you in the room would know, we have a decreasing number of soil experts that are easily accessible for various reasons. You know, they've got natural attrition of retirement, we've got changing educational pathways about how people get into soil science or not, and a changing government focus, of course, around advisory services particularly. And then the reverse of that, we've got this increasing demand because people like yourselves are really interested in soils and want to know more and want to know how to manage them properly. There's an increasing understanding of how important they are in not just agriculture, but for everything. There's this rise of different management processes or systems, and a lot of them are very focused on soil. And so because of that increase and the rising decrease as well, we want to look at other sources of information. So that's why we're trying to corral resources into a resource library. The other why, I guess, is something that I'm assuming a lot of people in the audience have issues where there's a lot of information available digitally and online, but how do you trust that? And what's the quality of that? So, and how do I find relevant information for my system, my region, my place, that sort of thing? So that's an issue. So then this is what it is. The library is a portal, so we have not developed any new resources. These are all resources that exist, and there are a lot out there. It's searchable, so you can use a keyword or a tile, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. It's devoted to soils, obviously, so you don't have to search through other stuff. And most importantly, it's curated. So it has information in there that we think is worthy of being in there. So it is not a catch-all for all soil stuff, because you don't need that. You've already got that. That's your internet and your Google search. It's also not a search engine for journal papers, because those already exist as well. So we don't need to recreate them. It's not exhaustive, but we're working on that, and maybe you can help us with that. We'll talk about that later as well. And it's pitched at landholders and advisors. They're our first target audience, if you like. So the library, I've got my glasses on so I can see this. You can access it through the Smart Soils website, and if you're a keen bean and you are sitting in the front 2 rows, you'll have one of these that has a QR code on it, so you can access it that way. Or you can just search and Google, rather. And as I said, you can search through using tiles or a keyword search. And you can often search for the title on your internet browser. It'll take you straight to the place you want to. When I first put this together, there's 400 resources. There's probably a bit more because we've got more coming in all the time. And we do also have things like case studies, which is quite useful for place-based solutions. These are the kinds of resources that we have. So it's not just print material, podcasts, videos. It's in-depth things like books or short form. So you should be able to find something there that suits your purpose and your audience. And the important thing that I mentioned a little bit before is that you can suggest a resource, and we would like you to do that so that we, cover all regions and different ways of doing things and managing soil. So I will talk a little bit about this more in the next slides coming too, but you can also email me directly on that email if you want to suggest a resource. And there's some feedback systems in the library if things don't work, or indeed if you don't find what you're looking for and you want to tell us that so we can fill that gap. So this is what you see if you go to the Smart Soils. That's the landing page with all the tiles. So we've organised all the resources in the library into that kind of, and then above that you can see there's a search bar. So you can click on a tile, or if you're sure about the kind of resource or the title or whatever that you want to look for, you can do it that way. There's a little bit of an instructional video up the front, which is a bit the same as what I'm telling you now. So if we go in deeper, if you clicked on a tile, that's what you would see. So it has all the resources on soil erosion in the library. It has information about what kind of resource it is, whether it's a video, a book, whatever like that. And then you can click in further. If you feel that that's not what you wanted to look at, you can still search in the keyword search. So the search bar is on every page, so you don't have to keep going back to the main page to search. Now here's an individual entry. So if you clicked into one of those individual entries, that's what you'd see. I know the text is very small, so I'm going to zoom in. So this is a video, just a random one, and all the videos are embedded, so you don't have to leave our site to watch the video. And what you can see there is the What's Hot section on the right-hand side. So obviously that will change as more people use it. So if you're looking for something that's really topical, you can go straight there. The search bar is still there, you can see at the top on the right, and at the top there's a button that says suggest a resource, and that's on every single resource page. So if you go, oh, they don't have this that I think they should have, that's where you go and put it in. And under that video there would be this text. So this is all your publication information. You can, if it's not a video, go directly to where that resource is located, but it gives you the copyright information, who put it together, edited, wrote it, whatever, who published it, that sort of thing. And then I'll just go to the next slide to explain the next bit. If it's not a video but just a general book, this is what you'll see. It's the same kind of information, but if we zoom in, you can see that's a book, so it has, we have also included information around the chapter titles, so you can have a little bit more detail about what might be in that resource. The other thing to point out here is that we have audiences that we think that it's appropriate for, and where relevant, what region or state that would pertain to. And again, the resource link to take you there. Down the bottom of each page is this kind of arrangement, and as I showed you, when you click on the tile, there's a whole list of resources, so you can flick to the next resource by just flicking on either of those on the right or left hand side if that resource that you're not looking at is particularly what you want. And as I mentioned before, there's opportunity for you to give us feedback on the resource, or even get in contact with us directly if you couldn't find what you're after or what you needed. So I've talked about suggest a resource a lot. So to suggest a resource, all we ask is that it fulfills these criteria. So when you fill out your suggest a resource form, which is online, all you have to do is say it's here and put in the link, and so that we can find it. And then you have to say to us that it demonstrates good quality science, so it's evidence-based, that it's relevant to the Australian system and soils, that it's readily available, and I don't mean that it's free, because there are some publications in the library that are saleable, but they're easy to get hold of, so that's what it's all about. Preferably we'd like them to be electronic, but that's not a game changer. And as I said, it's curated, so does it add value to what's already there? So before you suggest a resource, please go and have a look and see what's already there, and if you think what you're going to suggest adds value or is different or better or has a little bit more information, then go for it, suggest it. And obviously we'd like it to be well written for the audience that it's aimed at. So that's the criteria. And as I said when I started, we have other links in the Smart Source project. So as well as the resource library, which is your standard set of resources, we have these other resources, which are people. So, and on that web page, we also have access to them. So you can connect to your regional soil coordinator. Who has heard of regional soil coordinators? Who's talked to a regional soil coordinator? Great. There is one just right here. But we also, within Soil Science Australia, and our membership, we have 2 accreditation programs, so you can find a soil scientist with an accreditation if that's what you're after by searching that. And also below this, on that web page, there's a big organisation directory of organisations that you might go to get soils information, whether it's about policy or legislation, mapping, so for example, and that's organised by state, and then there's a national part of that directory as well. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. That's the important stuff. So because we're not online today, I couldn't show you how it works in real time, but I would encourage you all to take a look at both of those pages and yeah, and suggest a resource. Any question?
platform that actually has monitors for soil, like characteristics?
When you say monitors, do
So
you mean
can
for
record it in
condition?
there. Yeah, like soil condition and so on.
So there is something that they're just starting now, which is organised through DAF. So I'm not probably the right person to talk about it, but there is a national monitoring program that is starting, and so a lot of organisations, NRM organisations, have been contracted to carry out that work.
We're one of them.
So that's where that's going. So it's kind of in its infancy, I guess, and that should link, I guess, ultimately to ANSYS, which is our soil database.
Thank you.
No worries.
Questions?
So how much do you proactively look for articles, or like I'm involved with farming systems groups that obviously generate a lot of these fact sheets and case studies? Do they, unless they proactively go to you, does stuff get on there?
So this is only very new. So it's just been quite ad hoc. So that's kind of why I'm talking to you now and putting stuff out on social media, because we would like people to come to us to suggest when they've got new resources, particularly things like case studies, because they're very powerful. But at this point, we've just got a small team. There's me and a project officer, and then 2 contract workers. Yeah. So it's more about us trawling through what's there and knowing what's there as well previously. But going forward, it would be nice, if people suggested things directly.
Yeah, so it might be good to talk to the farming systems groups or the like around the place, because, there's a whole lot of stuff already sitting on websites.
Yes, exactly.
And the GRDC also have something similar as well, don't they?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. We've got a lot of that. So the other thing I didn't mention is that if there is something like GRDC, or Western Australia has an amazing knowledge bank, that the whole knowledge bank is in there. So if you know that exists, that'll take you straight to that web platform, because if you noticed, one of the criteria or the kinds of resources we have are web pages, so that's okay, because we can take people, for example, if that Western Australian knowledge bank, as it does, has a section on soil acidity, it'll be in our soil acidity section. The overall web environment is also there, because we want people to go in and browse and learn and find other stuff that they want.
I'm aware of the work done by Soils for Life, and I wonder if you guys collaborate or look at their case studies.
Yeah. So a lot of their stuff's in the library. Yes. Yeah.
Because I know also there may be a different approach, or is it similar?
It's more that we're just trying to bring everything together. So GRDC will have on their website all the GRDC stuff, and Soils for Life will have all their stuff. But if you as a user, you have to go there and there and there. If you come here, you just go here. So it's about ease of access. That's what I'm saying, accessibility. And that you can trust that the resources we've put up there are of quality.
Do you have a sense of what people are interested in searching for? Do you have the capacity to see what the hottest search words are?
Yeah, we do. And as time goes on, that hot topics section will reflect that as well. Yeah, so a lot of it depends on funding rounds, as I'm sure you guys are all aware. So when the projects are started, so we're in the second phase of the project, and it was very much focused on soil testing and sort of that. So that was the stuff that was really people were searching for, and soil test interpretation and things like that. But obviously carbon is a big one as well, and biology. So they're the ones that are just whatever's topical really. But a lot of it is also quite foundation knowledge level stuff, which is really valuable.
Thank you. And the second question was, do you have access to soil test data? I know some state departments have soil test data available. I think it's interesting when you work with a landholder, you can say, here's a property near you, it has a red chromosome. with 1.2% soil organic carbon in the top 30 centimetres?
So we don't keep that because but that org directory that I talked about has access. So, for example, in New South Wales, if you want to do that, you would go to eSpade, and it says if you want this kind of information, soils map, landscape maps, go to eSpade, and there's the link. So yeah, but it's not in the library because the library is an extension library, if you like. Yep.
Thank you.
He's got a loud voice. Yeah.
They call me PA, even with a cough. So I'm a clod-kicking agronomist, and I just want to say regarding soil tests, excuse me, I was pleasantly surprised, which all you guys I'm sure know, that the nutrients of the world and the normal, chemical and physical soil testing, they're now doing biology. So for $70 you can get a respiration, soil biology rating of your soil. Who doesn't know about that? So that, yeah, it's out there. So $70 is on the list of tests you can now get at the most of your local soil lab. So I'm just saying that's an advantage.
What does that tell you and what can you do with it and who helps you understand that number?
Like I said, I'm a club kicking agronomist. They tell me, it measures the biology of the soil by the respiration. The more bugs, the more respiration. That makes sense to me. And you rank it, low, compare it, whatever. I'm sure there's soil scientists here that can answer that better.
Well, I guess the issue we have though is the benchmarks. So landscape, clear under country, soil type. Well, I guess that biological stuff still coming into its own because we don't have the benchmark.
So I always compare something.
Yeah.
On
So if you
Yeah.
so if you have your own monitoring over
good,
time.
bad.
So you can't really think of it in the same way as your soil testing for chemistry, because there's been a lot of work done on what those numbers mean in relation to plant growth, blah, 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 blah. There's none of that for soil biology. You need to set your own benchmark and monitor yourself over time for it to be useful and informative. Yeah.
Thanks. So if I wanted to ask a really specific question, like what's the sort of the body of science on duplex soil in the Billabong catchment of southern New South Wales? I went to a seminar the other day where
It's a
they
shame
were
it's
talking
not
about
live. We could have typed that in.
I just tried and it didn't come up with an answer. So I'm just wondering, is it going to go to that level of sort of detail? Or you
It would
think
be
maybe
really
in
nice
time?
if it could go to that level of detail. But as I said, we've got and we're constrained by what's out there as well. So, because we're not generating anything new, because quite often we don't really need to. But it's not live yet, but we are, to get on the AI bandwagon with everyone else, we are looking at trying to have some kind of a bot that helps with that kind of stuff. And that will also allow us to see, as I said, what the gaps are. Yeah. Yeah. As I said, it's not exhaustive yet.
Hi, Abby. Thank you. I think this is a wonderful resource, a one-stop shop, and thank you for curating it. We've been involved with an ongoing soils project in a regional area, and with some support from Ange here in front of me, and of course Cam over there. And experimentally, we decided we'd go down and have a look at the biology. We were interested in things like, the bacterial fungi ratios and things like that. And we taught ourselves how to do the testing and how to send all the stuff to Adelaide and all that sort of stuff. And when we got the results back, we really had difficulty finding people that could really help us interpret what was there. So I can't wait to get on and have a look and see what you've got in your library there to help us go down that track. Thank you.
I think the thing also about biology is it's a study of ecology, so it's a slightly different way of looking at soils, and those two or disciplines are coming together better now, but there's still a lot to be learnt about how that works, and it's not a static thing, as you probably worked out. It waxes and wanes, and just the other day there was a presentation to the regional soil coordinators about, you can get high levels of biology in a soil that's compacted or changed from what it was before, because that's the way ecology works. New colonisers come in and there's lots of... So it doesn't necessarily mean good. So that's what we've got to sort of drill down into and what that actually means and where you are, I guess, on that ecological succession timeline. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Abby. That was an incredible presentation. Thanks, Wayne, for bringing up that topic, because the interesting thing is, has anyone in this room been to a soils workshop where Cam Leckie's been presenting? Just put your hands up. Only one? I thought everyone in Australia had been to one of those. Anyway, that's because of the part of Australia I kind of float in, I suppose, at the moment. But we're very lucky. Cam, put your hand up. Cam is a... what's your role called again, Cam? Yeah, there you go. Local soil coordinator. So Cam does work basically from, I don't know how far north he goes. I know he goes all the way down to the New South Wales border. He's supposed to be southern Queensland, northern New South Wales, aren't you, Cam? But you don't just stick to there. But Cam does some really great workshops, and we have worked with Cam, with the group that Wayne was talking about around the microbiology. And the interesting thing at the end of that was, we were lucky enough, weren't we, Wayne? We're working with some of the most incredible soil scientists that you'll probably come across. So we had Cam, who's incredible. We had, I'm just reading here to make sure I don't leave anyone off, Sterling Robertson, who's just come back from America. He was sent over there on a, what was the fellowship he did? It's like a Rhodes Scholarship at next level. Fulbright. He went over on a Fulbright scholarship. Very smart soils dude who's also very human. He's really keen to understand the human side of it. So there's Cam, there's Sterling, there's Rob Banks, who has done a lot of work in vertisol soils, looking at changes and looking at the influence of deep-rooted tropical grasses and how they can actually be beneficial in systems where they've been disrupted because they're deeper rooted than our natives. So he doesn't say natives are bad or anything, but sometimes a deep-rooted tropical or subtropical can be beneficial to get deep cycling happening. And we've also got Ned Scan, who's in Varel, who's a soil scientist. So these guys are all generous enough, and they pulled together, and we had workshops out with Wayne's group where this group was just saying, we want to know more about soils and particularly microbiology. So we went out with them, and we actually had these guys to show us how to take the samples. We had bulk density rings, we had barcoded farm lab soil sample bags. We sent them off for the actual testing at the lab. We took the microbiology. We had to take them on a weekend separately at their properties once they'd learnt how to do it, put them in a freezer box, post them on Monday to South Australia, to the lab that we decided to send the soil to. Then we got the information back, and we had to decide which soil test, wasn't it? There was about 15 different suites of soil testing for microbiology. Then we got it back, and then I reached out to all those most excellent, very smart soils dudes, and they said, we don't know enough about microbiology, really, to properly advise you here. There's actually not many people in Australia that have a really thorough understanding of soil microbiology, and these guys, you know, knew enough to know that they probably didn't know enough to claim that they knew. Do you know what I mean, about microbiology? So then we got, from UNE, Oliver Knox, the Soil Urundi's dude. So he helped us, but then he changed jobs because he's really busy. So it's been really interesting and difficult. We've got all these numbers, we've had some good help, but it's hard to track down a microbiologist, and especially around your Billabong idea is, well, the area. There's some really interesting data in that area, but what I would say is, to what someone else said before, look at what your neighbour's doing. Just remember, the neighbour's soil test could be so different to yours. Different soil type and or different management practices. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to be careful. Neighbours' soil tests are interesting, but you need to contextualise it to your soils and your conditions, because we all know you can walk from one spot to another and you go from one soil type to another. So anyway, all I would say, Cam and colleagues like him, you need to go to them and ask for information. And Abby?
I was going to say, and if, like, I would ask yourself, why are you testing for the soil biology? Like, what is it that you want to know? Well, but is it about biodiversity? Because that's maybe looking at it one particular way. If it's about function, you would perhaps look at it.
It's all about the big banner, soil health, and we're still learning.
And it's interesting, Oliver said, of our group, there's 11 different properties, wasn't there? And I think we took how many different samples from each property? 4, well, microbiology samples. And Oliver said this is one of the most complete microbiology test groups that he's seen, which was kind of a bit alarming because it wasn't that huge, but it was much bigger than what he'd seen before. So the point is, we're trying to link it with production data, weren't we? Yep. though. Righto. Got people drifting in. Stay there. Yeah, no, but I'll get in touch, and apologies for not ringing. Yeah. Great to meet you, Dad.